And if you had lots and lots of money, and if I asked you what's the worst thing that could happen, does anything come to mind?
Yeah, that I could lose it all, that
I
I'd
could,
mess up and do something and lose it all.
perfect. And that's actually a fairly common belief. And a lot of people, even though it doesn't really make sense, practice a belief around money that if there's a fear of I'll lose it all, it's better off not to have it in the first place so that I don't risk losing it all, which when you think about it, doesn't really make sense. But that's a fairly common block on the topic of money that a lot of people have. All right, welcome to Change Your Reality. I'm your host, Nick Breau, and today we're doing a segment called the 30-Minute Breakthrough, where we bring in one of our audience members who has a specific circumstance that they'd like to shift, and we see how much of a transformation we can create in about 30 minutes. So today on our show, we have Kayla. Welcome, Kayla.
Thank you. Hi.
And Kayla, you're somewheres down southern US, I believe. Is that
That's
correct?
correct. Dallas area.
Yeah. And have you been studying spiritual development, self help, law of attraction for a while?
Quite since 2019.
Okay, cool. And who are some of your favorite teachers?
Abraham, you, and then you kind of introduced me to Bashar as well, and I like him as well.
Cool. I love Bashar. Have you ever been to an Abraham-Hicks seminar? I know she does seminars in different cities around
I
Texas.
haven't, but I'd really love to, and I'd really love to do a cruise one time too. I think that would be amazing.
Cruises are amazing. Yeah. The what I like about the cruise is you've got like the people who've been studying this stuff for the longest in the Abraham community are the ones that typically do the cruise. And it's often the same people that keep going to the cruises. So it's kind of like this you get to meet and connect with this family of people. And it's really such a loving, fun environment. Highly recommend it.
I would definitely love that. To have more people that believe the same way I do and connect with them would be really nice.
Totally. Totally. So, what kind of breakthrough are we looking for today for you?
Um, I just really have issues around money. And like I was saying, I can manifest, seems I can manifest money for other people, but not for myself, and so I don't know if it's just a lack, a view of like I'm just constantly thinking of lack instead, like I've got to hold on to this money. If not, I'm going to lose it. So I've tried the belief tree myself, and I can't seem to crack this one. Like I just can't seem to do it on my own.
Yeah, and I mean, money is probably like the number one thing. Money and relationships are the top two things that people struggle with and have blocks around. So I'm not surprised at all that you want to work with money or work on money. So what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of digging work. We'll see if we can find out what your biggest block is, your biggest piece of resistance is on this topic of money, and then we'll see if we can clear it. Sound good?
Sounds perfect.
All right. So we're going to start with we'll do an attraction point audit, which is basically kind of reverse engineering reality. So you believe in law of attraction, correct?
Yes,
You understand that your outer world is a reflection of your inner state of being.
absolutely.
So what we're going to do is we're going to look at different outer world circumstances and we're going to see what emotion they trigger for you. And with about 80 to 90% of people that I do this with, it's the same emotions that keep coming up over and over again. Those are what I call dominant negative emotions, and those are people's typically their biggest source of resistance. Um,
Okay,
so let's start with that and see if that tells us anything, and then we'll kind of go from there.
sounds good.
So if you think about your financial circumstances and where they are now, how does that make you feel? So does it bring up an emotion of not good enoughness, powerlessness, stuck, anger? If you had to pinpoint one emotion that your financial circumstances bring up for you, what would it be?
Nervous,
Nervous, okay. And would there be a second emotion?
scared.
Fear, okay. And let's go with work. So are you currently employed or unemployed?
Unemployed currently.
Okay. And the fact that you're not working right now, does that trigger a negative emotion for you?
It definitely does. It makes me feel a little worthless,
Perfect.
that I'm not of value. Yeah.
Not of value. Okay. I'm going to make a note of that choice of words. And previously were you working at some point?
I was, yes, I was working for a company for about 2 years. And originally, it
Okay.
really gave me, I felt like a sense of purpose, like I was accomplishing something. And then when things didn't work out and I had to leave, I was really upset for a long time because I felt like I had failed um, at something or failed at this.
Okay. Okay. And when you think of the hardest part of the or the worst part about that job, does something come to mind?
Definitely. Just being yelled at. I mean, just having people, every interaction was just negative and mad and just angry all the time. And I just felt like I was almost absorbing those emotions. And so when I'd get off of work, it would just, that would overflow into my personal life. And then I just was becoming this
Perfect.
person I didn't want to be.
And how did that circumstance make you feel?
Bad. I felt like a failure, but at the same time, yes, I felt like a failure. Like I should be just pushing through it. Like you should do better. You should do this better. Like you should be able to do this. You know, everyone has full-time jobs. Like why can't you just suck it up? Or it was kind of my thought pattern.
Okay. So is that the same like worthless, not valued feeling that you just talked about?
I definitely think so. Yeah, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
I think I've always believed just because like my parents that you have to have a job. Like even if you don't like it, you have to have a job to be of value in this world, you know. And even talking to you right now, I know that's not true, but I think it's lingering in the back of my head.
You still feel that feeling.
Right, right.
Yeah. And that lack of value feeling or that worthless feeling, does it feel like it's kind of the same thing as not good enough? Or does it feel a little bit different?
It feels a little bit different because
Perfect.
I've worked really hard. That was the first emotion I identified was the not good enough. And I do feel good enough, you know, as a person, as the work that I've done to where I am now. You know, I know what I deserve. Um, so I don't, yeah, I'm not sure why that other emotion's coming up.
Perfect. Okay. And then in the job that you were in before that job, is there another kind of job that you were in that for a significant amount of time?
All the jobs I had before that were for short amount of times. It seems like I don't really stay somewhere for more than like 6 months to a year. Um,
Okay.
but I did love the job I had before. It was working with animals. I love animals, you know, but the pay just wasn't the right, you know, thing. And so I had to leave that
Yeah.
job for the other one. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect. And did you notice any similar patterns in those jobs of feeling unworthy or not good enough or anything like that?
Definitely not when I worked at the dog facility, but um, once I got towards the end of this last job, it was so many changes and so many things that were going on. I just didn't, yeah, I didn't feel like I was good enough or smart enough to do what they were asking me to do.
Okay. And what about relationships? So, how many significant relationships would you say you've been in?
Definitely three. I've been married twice. Well, I'm
Okay.
married 3 times, so I'm married now. I just got married last year. Um, First two relationships were definitely from me thinking I wasn't worthy. The first guy,
Okay. So, you saw a pattern in those relationships as well.
absolutely. And I got that like from your book. And I saw that like with my first relationship because I had such low self esteem and such low worth that I just allowed to be treated really poorly. And then in the second marriage, he was very abusive, very controlling, you know, but it's almost like I asked for those things because I didn't feel like I deserved anything better.
Perfect. And then any chronic physical symptoms that keep coming up, so like tight, tense neck and shoulder all the time, for example.
What happens, like if I'm extremely stressed or I know something internally is going on with me, I get horrible sciatic pain in my left side. Um,
Okay.
and I also have that medical physical that a book that you recommended.
Yep.
And some of the things, you know, they do fit, you know, with like that it says, but that's definitely where I get the pain is right there in my
Yeah.
left
And
leg.
lower back area typically relates to feeling stuck or powerless.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so for you, there seems to be a pretty obvious pattern so far around the worthless, failure, not good enough, which is all kind of the same energy, the same bucket. Let's talk about money for a second now. If you had a very, very well paying job, maybe you're making 10,000, maybe $20,000 a month, and that money was consistently coming into your bank account, does that feel unsafe in any way?
No, it feels exciting. Like it's a there's no anxious feeling. Like it's exciting. Like that's what I want. That's so definitely it doesn't
Okay.
scare me to have that.
And if you had lots and lots of money, and if I asked you what's the worst thing that could happen, does anything come to mind?
Yeah, that I could lose it all. That
I
I'd
could.
mess up and do something and lose it all.
Perfect. And that's actually a fairly common belief. And a lot of people, even though it doesn't really make sense, practice a belief around money that if there's a fear of I'll lose it all, it's better off not to have it in the first place so that I don't risk losing it all, which when you think about it, doesn't really make sense. But that's a fairly common block on the topic of money that a lot of people have.
Okay,
All right. So, any questions so far?
not so far. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So, should we do a little bit of belief tree work on this unworthy worthlessness? Do you feel like money needs to be earned?
I do. Like deep down, I do. And but it's crazy because I can sit here talk to you or I do like affirmations. I know that it doesn't. Well, no, I can sit here like I still have that yucky feeling coming right here that yes, I feel like it has to be earned, like it has to be work, like you have to work hard for it.
Okay. And that feeling you felt right there, is it the feeling that it has to be earned, or was that the like unworthy feeling?
Maybe more that it has to be earned. Um, I mean, I'll say this too, like I went through these little stages of every 6 months. And I would do really well, and then I would crash. I'm bipolar, and so I my parents and everything, all they've ever wanted was just for me to have a stable job and to do well, and so losing this last job was just really a big deal for me because I've done so well and worked so hard to get to where I am now, and I think I'm just so afraid to mess up because that's what would happen is things would go so great for me and my life would be awesome and then everything would crash. I would have like an emotional outburst and lose everything. So I think I'm just afraid to for that to happen.
Perfect. Let's start with that fear, because I feel like that fear is really something that could hold you back. And a lot of what I teach is that one of my favorite quotes is that if you're not allowing yourself to fail, you're not allowing yourself to succeed. So a lot of people are holding themselves back in life because they're afraid of failure. But failure is a necessary part of the path to success, because when we make mistakes, when we allow ourselves to fail, those are the circumstances that provide the most amount of growth for us, right?
Right.
So that fear of failure, can we label it it's not safe to fail?
Right. Yes, I've always been a perfectionist. I'll say that too. Like every my dad's a perfectionist. Everything was not good enough. No matter I made all A's. I did everything I was supposed to in school and it was never good enough. And just like now, like I'm afraid to try anything or to go after something because I'm afraid I guess I'm not going to do it to the best of my ability or I just don't want to fail maybe.
Yeah, and perfectionism is typically rooted in that emotion of not good enoughness, right?
Okay.
It's like I'm trying to be perfect to validate that I'm good enough, or I'm trying to be perfect so people can validate that I'm good
Yeah.
enough, right? All right, so let's play a little bit. So that feeling that it's not safe to fail, can you kind of tune in and see if you can feel that unsafe feeling in your body and yours?
It's always here for me. It's my
Up
chest,
in your
the
chest.
tightness.
Okay. And 0 to 10, how strong is that feeling that it's not safe to fail?
7.
7. Perfect. And without analyzing it, without getting in your head about it, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say It's not safe to fail because if I do,
Because if I do, everyone will be disappointed in me and they'll think that I'm just a failure like I used to be. I couldn't keep a job, wasn't taking care of her kids like she should have. And um, yeah, I just,
perfect. So people will be disappointed. They'll see me as a failure.
yeah,
So that failure feeling, 0 to 10, how strong is it?
it's like a 9.
Perfect. Okay. And that failure feeling, I feel that way
Because I've failed so many times in the past and I
perfect.
didn't want to. I just, yeah,
Okay. Good. So earlier I said, if you're not allowing yourself to fail, you're not allowing yourself to succeed, right? And the other day, I don't remember which basketball player it was. I don't know if it was Kobe Bryant or I'm not sure who it was, but one of the top names in basketball. He had the most amount of baskets of shots made, but he also had one of the highest numbers of missed shots in the NBA.
wow,
So, would you consider that person a success or a failure?
a success. Yeah, definitely a success.
Right. So, this definition of being a failure, in my opinion, as long as you keep trying, as long as you keep learning from the experiences that are being thrown at you, even if it's not the outcome you desired, it's still exactly what we need for our growth and expansion and our new awareness. Would you kind of agree with that?
I agree with that. It still scares me
Good.
though. Like I
That's
still,
okay. That's okay. My goal right now is to get you out of this belief that you're a failure,
yeah,
right? So you can't sink the shots that you're not taking,
yeah,
right? And you're going to miss the shots on the way to getting good at sinking the shots.
right.
So this belief, this feeling that you're a failure, is it still a 9 or is it shifting a little bit?
I'd say it's like a 5.
Okay, so it's gone down a little bit. And that feeling that I'm a failure, I still feel that way because
I guess I don't want to disappoint my dad. And I,
perfect. You don't want to disappoint your dad.
I've just,
Okay.
I've disappointed him so much in the past. And like I told you, he's nothing's ever good enough, but I don't know. I just have this want to make him happy or to make him proud of me.
And just because it's never good enough, is it possible that it's not about it being good enough or not? It's about the perceptions that he's practicing.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that. I do.
I think that a lot of parents try to parent their kids through what I'll call tough love. And they continue to feed the story of no, you got to try harder. No, you got to work harder. No, it's not good enough. Thinking that that's going to reinforce you to work harder and try harder. Does that make
It
sense?
does.
When in reality, deep down, they might be extremely proud of you, even if they're not showing it.
Right.
Is that possible?
It's possible. I mean, and he even told me last weekend that he was proud of me, and it just, I don't seem to attach to when he tells me he's proud of me or when people give me compliments. I seem to kind of forget those and just think about the negative things sometimes.
Perfect. Okay, can you tap with me? Do you remember? Do you know how to do
I've
tapping?
seen you do it, but I've only seen it like 1 or 2 times. So,
Okay, so just tap where I tap and just follow along with
okay,
me. Okay, so I've got this not good enough feeling, and now you repeat it.
I've got this not good enough feeling.
I feel like I'm a
I
failure,
feel like I'm a failure,
even though Dad said he was proud of
even
me.
though Dad said he was proud of me.
I still get that
I
feeling,
still get that feeling,
even though I haven't given up.
even though I haven't given up.
Still feel like I'm a
Still
failure.
feel like I'm a failure.
Still feel like I'm not good enough,
Still feel like I'm not good enough.
even though my inner being knows that I'm not a
Even
failure.
though my inner being knows I'm not a failure.
Even though Nick knows that I'm not a
Even though
failure.
Nick knows I'm not a failure.
I still don't see it.
Still don't see it.
Still got that feeling
Still got that feeling
that I'm not good
that
enough,
I'm not good enough.
even though it weighs me down,
Even though it weighs me down.
even though it creates resistance that blocks manifestation.
Even though it creates resistance that blocks manifestation.
I'm not letting it go.
I'm not letting it go.
Still feeling that feeling
Still feeling that feeling
that I'm not good enough.
that I'm not good enough.
But maybe I am good enough.
But maybe I am good enough.
Maybe I've always been good enough.
Maybe I've always been good enough.
And maybe I'm not a failure.
Maybe I'm not a failure.
Maybe I've never been a failure.
Maybe I've never been a failure.
I've just taken on bad definitions.
I've just taken on bad definitions.
I've just taken on bad
I've
definitions.
just taken on bad definitions.
Because Nick knows I'm not a failure.
Because Nick knows I'm not a failure.
My inner being knows I'm not a
My inner
failure.
being knows I'm not a failure.
So maybe I can start to see that too.
So maybe I can start to see that too.
Maybe I really am good enough.
Maybe I really am good enough.
Maybe I've always been good enough.
Maybe I've always been good enough.
Even when Dad couldn't see it, I was still good enough.
Even when Dad couldn't see it, I was still good enough.
Even when other people couldn't see it, I was still good enough.
Even when other people couldn't see it, I was still good enough.
So maybe it's time to let that old feeling go.
Maybe it's time to let that old feeling go.
That I'm a failure.
That I'm a failure.
Because I'm not.
Because I'm not.
I never have been.
I never have been.
Even when other people couldn't see it.
Even when other people couldn't see it.
Even when I couldn't see it.
Even when I couldn't see it.
Maybe it's time to let that go.
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 Good job. Okay, take a deep breath. So that feeling that I'm a failure, is it still a 5?
Oh, it feels much better. I'd say like a 2.
2? Good. And that feeling that it's not safe to fail, does it still feel like it's a 7?
I'd still say a 3.
It's down? Okay, good. And let's go over to that worthless, not good enough feeling. What number would you give that?
Well, right now, I don't feel like, I don't feel worthless or not good enough. I would say, I don't feel that at this moment.
Good. So do you feel a little bit lighter
I
now?
feel a lot lighter. I honestly do.
Good. Awesome. Now we're going to do a really quick little visualization for a second.
Okay.
So if you picture, and we're going to call this your template reality.
Okay.
If you picture the version of you who is working in her dream job, making good money, has a nice healthy bank account, in what way does that version of you feel differently than current version of you?
Confident.
Confident. Perfect.
Confident and successful, happy.
Perfect. And what beliefs or perspectives is that version of you possibly practicing that are different than the current version of you have been practicing?
Just believing that I am good enough and that I can be confident and that I can fail and still do well. And, and just.
I love that. I can't fail. I love that you said that.
Yeah.
And if that version of you were sitting in the room with you right now, if you were to take that version of you and just kind of plop it into your current reality, what action steps would that version of you be taking that current version of you might not be taking? So what could they be doing differently?
Trying more, taking more risks and opportunities. As I
Good.
currently get opportunities and invitations to do things, and I just won't, and so I think that that successful version of me is a go-getter, is not necessarily running and doing everything and efforting, but
Yeah, because you still want it to be inspiring.
absolutely,
Right?
right.
So now as homework, if I gave you the task of being that version of you and acting on these opportunities, how does that feel right now?
A little nervous, I'll be honest, like a 3.
Yeah.
But if I could, if I say, okay, I'm going to do this for 7 days, then that doesn't scare me as much because then I'm like, okay, like, then if it's bad, after 7 days, it'll be okay.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: if you were to be that version of you, what's the worst thing that could happen?
I could embarrass myself. But I know it's okay. Like, it's okay to fail. I almost said it again, but making the wrong choice, like I need to trust my intuition more because, it will lead me in the right direction like it has done.
And what if I told you that there's no such thing as a wrong choice? That physical reality is one big exploration. And vibrationally, so if you are starting a business and you're at the vibration of success, and if you've got 5 different business options, doesn't matter which option you choose, if you're at the vibration of success, what do you think the end result is going to be?
Success.
And if you're at the vibration of failure and you've got those same 5 decisions or businesses to choose from, what do you think the end result is going to be, regardless of what you
Oh,
choose?
failure, definitely.
Right. So it's not so much about the decision, it's about the energy you practice as you step into it.
So just always, and by that, do you mean just being in alignment? Like, that's something I struggle with too, is I can't stay in that constant high alignment. Like, I seem to get pulled down some too.
Yeah. And the reason for that is probably that emotion of failure and not good enough,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Right.
Because what happens is that state of alignment's our natural state.
Yeah.
And what happens is it's these negative heavy emotions that we carry that pull us out of that state.
Right.
So do you notice how much lighter you feel after we just talked about these emotions just for a little bit and did some
Oh,
clearing work?
yes. Much lighter. Like, I feel like I can do things. Like, I can go and try to do some things today and not feel so heavy.
Absolutely. And that's because you're now, you've released some of those things that are weighing you down, right?
Right.
So when these negative emotions come up or when you feel heavy, you can ask that question, I feel this way because, and then those perspectives will come up, and then you can work on kind of talking yourself out of them and validating them,
Right.
which will help shift and release those things.
Yeah. Okay.
So do you have a specific opportunity that you could possibly act on?
Not one that I can think of off the top of
Okay.
my head. I definitely want to go into that field of being an esthetician. And I've taken steps, but I haven't actually followed all the way through. So that could definitely be something that I could do. Um, because regardless if I'm 31 or 41, it doesn't matter. If you want to go back to school, you can go back to school. So that's what I need to remind myself of.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Awesome. Now let's play a little bit with this belief that money is hard or money has to be earned. Do you believe that, a lot of people in the collective community, money kind of just manifests out of the blue,
Right.
right? And lots of people have had that experience, as you've heard those stories before, right?
Right. Yeah.
Do you believe that that could happen to you?
Absolutely. Like, I just feel like I'm doing something wrong, but I guess it's just my belief that I have to work hard and earn it that's keeping me from receiving, or I think
Perfect. So that belief, I have to work hard, 0 to 10, how strong is that feeling?
a six. A six, yeah.
6. And that feeling that I have to work hard for my money, I feel that way because,
That's just how I grew up. That's what everyone around me, that's what they believe. I don't really have like someone from the collective, or someone that really believes like I do. And I'm kind of one of those people that likes the self reassurance and like you're doing the right thing, and it seems like just when I get excited, like, okay, here we go, like it's going to be fine, like money's going to come in, everything's fine. And then I get a call from my mom and she's like, did you find a new job yet? And I'm like, and it just goes down, and so just, yeah.
yeah. So That's what people told me.
Right.
Those people that told you that, you have to work hard for your money and money needs to be earned. Do you think those people follow law of attraction, Abraham-Hicks, all of the stuff that we teach?
Definitely not. Like my mom.
So it's more the old paradigm way of seeing and doing things, right?
Absolutely.
And is it possible that there's a better way to let money in than what those people are aware of?
Absolutely. And like I've seen all of you do it. Like I've seen the people in the collective. I've read the emails. Like I absolutely know that it's possible. I just, something's sticking for me.
And do you believe that it's possible for you?
I don't know. I'm hesitating, but I do. I do believe it's possible, but I think maybe I don't trust myself enough that,
Okay, so let's play with that
okay,
because there's something there, and I want to pull this out so you can let that money roll in.
okay.
So what's that feeling of is it doubt? Is it resistance? What comes to mind when we talk about letting money in easily?
That I'm good, that I did something wrong, like that I didn't follow the process correctly, that I didn't, that I'm not going to do it right, and so it's not going to come to me. Is kind of the
Okay, so to me it sounds like it's the belief that you have a block,
so that I just think that I have
right?
one. Yeah, yeah.
And oftentimes believing you have a block is a block,
So I'm creating it
right?
myself. Yeah.
Exactly. So how strong is that feeling of I have a money block?
Oh, probably like an 8. Yeah.
Okay. And I feel that way because
Because it's not like I'm poor that that I can't take care of myself, but I feel that way because I'm not manifesting the money that I'm asking for. I'm not.
so essentially you feel like that way because it's not showing up.
Right, right.
Okay. And the fact that it's not showing up, is it possible that it's just because you're not allowing yourself to be a vibrational match to it?
I could see that. Yeah.
And this emotion of I'm not worthy, feeling like a failure, and you said specifically, I'm not of value. Do you see how that would relate to finances?
Right. Yeah, because they're negative emotions, right? Yeah.
And we've just worked through those emotions, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
That feeling of I'm not worthy or I'm not of value, does it feel like it's quite different now?
Definitely. I do feel of value. I do feel much better and feel worthy. And it also makes me feel good to
Perfect.
think that I've just created this block myself. you know.
Perfect. So just because it hasn't shown up to this point, does that mean that it won't show up tomorrow?
Absolutely not. Yeah, no. I mean, it could definitely show up in 5 minutes. Like I do truly
Perfect.
believe that it's coming. I mean, like I said, I saw it go into my husband's account
Okay.
even.
I want you to stop believing that it's coming,
Okay.
and I want you to start practicing that it's here. We, in the last 20 minutes or 25 minutes, we have just worked through your money block. You no longer have a money block. I want you to stop believing that you have a money block, and I want you to start expecting money to show up.
Okay.
And your inner being is going to guide it to you maybe through impulses. So maybe you'll see the perfect job to apply for, or maybe your bank will call you up and say, "Hey, we made an error. We owe you $20,000." Who
Yeah.
knows? Okay. I want you to be completely open as to how this money is going to show up.
But how do you just expect it? Like, you know, I guess how should I frame that? Like, I know that it's coming at anyway.
So here's what I want you to do.
Okay,
So if that money were to show up, do you know what you would do with it?
I do.
Because something I teach is that you have to give the money a reason to show up.
Okay.
So those things that you want that money to show up for, you can write them down if you want
Okay.
and say, okay, inner being, source, whatever you want to call it, this is what I'm ready for. This is what I want. I know that I'm worthy of it. I know that I don't have to work hard for it. I'm done with that old programming. I'm ready to receive. You show me the way.
Okay. That sounds
That's
perfect.
all it takes. And then all you need to do is just be in the receptivity mode, which is being relaxed, which is being grounded, which is having an open energy field,
Okay.
right? And from that state of being, just wait and see what happens.
Okay. Yeah, that makes me
How
excited.
does that feel?
Excited. Definitely
Good. And
excited.
do you feel a lot lighter than when we
Oh,
started?
much, much lighter. Like it's, yes, definitely.
And are you expecting a big shift in your finances in the very short
Definitely.
term?
Absolutely. I was almost
Awesome.
expecting that before we even got on the call. I felt, I felt like I knew this was what I needed. This was what I needed.
And can you feel the feeling of relief?
Definitely. Yeah.
Good. I want you to keep practicing that feeling of relief. It's interesting when I used to do one on one sessions with people and packages, they would book their first session with me. And the thing that they've been trying to manifest for 20 or 30 years would literally show up a few days before our first session. And the reason for that is because having booked the session brought them enough relief, taking them out of that resistance place where they got into the receiving mode and let it in.
That's awesome.
Right.
That makes me
So
excited.
all you have to do is just practice relief, practice that receiving mode, and the fact that it's already done. And if impulses of excitement come up, don't let your fears hold you back.
I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna post that somewhere. Don't let my fears hold me back. I can do this.
Perfect. Awesome. Your inner being would never guide you to something that you can't handle. And to be honest, our inner beings purposefully guide us to things that scare us because the whole purpose of this physical reality experience is growth and expansion.
Right.
And we can't grow and expand in the familiar. So it's purposely going to try to guide us through excitement to the things that make us uncomfortable, to the things that fear us, because those are the circumstances that are new to us that are going to bring us new awareness and new growth and new expansion.
So kind of like when I get that nervous feeling about something, like I should try it, like to do it. And
Ask
yeah.
yourself, ask yourself, is this fear? Is this nervousness? Is this anxiety?
Okay.
Or is this excitement?
Okay.
Because anxiety and excitement, it's actually the same energy.
Okay.
And what defines whether it's anxiety or excitement is the way you perceive the circumstance. A lot of the times it's excitement, but we interpret it as anxiety and fear because of the definitions we attribute and the fears that we've picked up in the past. So we automatically define it as a scary circumstance rather than an exciting circumstance.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Make
Yes,
sense?
definitely.
Awesome. Any questions before we wrap up or any comments? Any last
Just
words?
thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And you'll keep me up to date with what shifts you experience over the coming days and
Yes,
weeks?
absolutely. I'm expecting them.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you for playing. And that concludes today's episode of Change Your Reality. If you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show or join our membership community, we do these breakthrough calls for 3 hours with our community almost every week. And you can find all the details at the website at nickbreau.com. Bye for now. That's it for today's episode of Change Your Reality. If you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, to join our membership community, or to be trained as a facilitator, you can find all the details on the website at nickbreau.com.